Now I'd like to hand it over to Alex Kvarcherov. He is the president of Amrus Consulting, which is an ISO 9001 consulting company. Alex has many years of experience in ISO 9001 and quality management systems. So I invited him. He was so nice to join us today. So we like to learn from him in terms of fundamentals of ISO 9001. So let's keep in mind that this is the first webinar of the series. So we like to keep it on a high level as for the ISO 9001. In coming weeks, we like to have a ISO 9001 focus webinar, so we can really dive even deeper parts of ISO 9001. But for today, we like to learn the fundamentals, why it is important and how it is run, and why companies need to comply with ISO 9001, which is very popular in many different industries. Alex, can you hear me? Alex?
Okay, I think I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, great.
Alex.
Okay, all right, very good. So good afternoon, everybody, and hopefully you're all feeling well. I know it's going through very difficult and hard times right now, and we hope that pretty soon we'll could get back to normal business again. But in the meantime, I just want to thank Kevin for inviting me, for giving a very, very top level presentation on ISO. Okay, and I'm Alex Kvarcherov. I have a consulting business. I'm the sole proprietor of Amrus Consulting, and I'm a certified ISO 9000 lead auditor. And I have been in business with this consulting company for the last 5 years. After a long career with an aerospace company that was certified to the AS 9100 quality standard. And what I do is I help small to middle-sized companies and businesses to either achieve ISO certification and help them to maintain ISO certification. So once you're certified, then every year you have to be recertified to maintain the certification. And back in 2018, I was very fortunate to have met Kevin, and since then I've become a BIMSER Solutions partner because what I found is that one of the BIMSER tools, QMS, does provide or gives you great capability in managing all of the ISO related data. Now, once you are certified and you are maintaining the ISO requirements, there's quite a bit of data that has to be maintained. And that always has been a problem until I established a relationship with BIMSER, and that really solved a big part of the problem in actually dealing with all of the ISO related data. Okay, next slide, please. So ISO 9001 is really the parent ISO of many other ISO principles, and the other ISOs are really focused towards a particular type of business, but basically all of them, or at least 80% of all of the ISO requirements come from ISO 9001. So it is a kind of a parent quality management system. So dealing with ISO 9001 basically covers most of the other ISO requirements. So when an organization is certified to an ISO, any of the ISO principles, they have to pass an audit from the organization that is certified to provide the certification to the individual organizations. So once you're certified to an ISO, you get a plaque, and then you are certified, and you have to maintain the certification by having an audit, a yearly audit, to make sure that you are following all of the ISO principles. So this particular slide addresses the 7 principles of ISO, which the first one is customer focus, which means that you have to make your customer happy by providing a product that the customer wants and deliver it on time. The next principle is leadership, and ISO has to be, it's not just a quality issue, but covers the whole organization. And sometimes ISO is not necessarily called quality management, but a business management system. So all levels of leadership must be involved in following the ISO principles. And then it flows down to all of the people, and all of the people have to be engaged, even at the lowest level. The lowest level workers at the lowest level of the chain have to understand how their part of the work contributes to the overall success of the ISO. ISO is also based on a process approach. And so a process approach is basically organizing your work packages into a contiguous and integrated system that makes it more efficient. And the process approach then leads to another known principle known as the lean system. ISO requires for you to do a continual improvement, and you have to look at your process, you have to look at the results of your process, and then evaluate how your internal processes could be improved to make your business more successful. The ISO is also based on evidence-based decision making. That means that instead of taking guesses or gut feels about what you should do to improve your business, it is really based on the data that you have accumulated, collected, and analyzed, and then based on that data, you make stepwise decisions to make improvements in your business. And the final principle is relationship management. And basically what it is that management has to be involved, not just managing your internal business, but be involved with all of the forces that affect your business, both internal forces, which is called the context of the organization, and also the interested parties, which are the external forces, which could consist of investors, suppliers, unions, regulators, and even neighbors. For example, could be traffic problems with all of the workers coming into work. So all of those issues have to be considered, and management has to address them, and that's what's called relationship management. So next slide, please. This is a system that was really developed by Deming. He's a well-known quality expert, and it's called the Plan, Do, Check, Act Cycle, PBA Cycle. And what it means is that when you follow the ISO principle, you're continuously involved in this loop, okay, that never ends. So you could be in one loop to make improvements in one area, and in parallel you can be in different loops that you are always evaluating to make continuous improvement. So when you look at the diagram, on the left side of the diagram, you have your inputs to your business. And what does it consist of? Well, it consists of obviously customer requirements. What kind of products or what's in the products that the customer wants. And then what's also driving your planning phase is, as I mentioned before, your organization and the context, which are your internal forces, and also the expectations of interested parties, which are your external forces. So all of this drives your planning phase. And on the right of the diagram, I've listed the 10, well, there are actually 10 ISO clauses, but the first 3 are just introductions and definitions. But the meat of the clauses are 4 through 10. So the numbers on the diagrams really refer to the clause, to the corresponding clause. So for example, the planning phase or clause, which is number 6, this is where you're doing all your planning of how you're going to deal with your external forces and your customer requirements. So your plan then drives clauses 7 and 8, which is the resources, 7, which are needed to do your development or your operation. And the operation is the actual development, manufacturing of your product or service. So in following the loop and the do cycle, this is where your product or service is being manufactured or performed and is being then delivered to your customers. Now, at the same time, Clause 9 requires you to evaluate your service or product, namely, look at what problems are there, how can you improve it, and this is both looked at from internal to the organization as well as feedback from the customer as far as the quality of your product and service. Then you're in the check phase, where you're actually checking your evaluation, what you have done, and then you go to clause 10, which is improvement. This is part of your continuous improvement. And then based on decisions that you made on how to improve your product or process, then you act on it, and then it goes back to planning, where you actually integrate your improvements into the product. So basically, you stay in that cycle forever because you're expected to do continuous improvement. So next slide, please. Well, this is basically a summary of what we've talked about. It gives you an idea of why ISO is good for your organization. And as we talked before, it hopefully will improve the customer satisfaction, make your customer happy. Well, as a result of that, your reputation improves and your credibility improves as an organization, and hopefully your sales will improve. Now also, as a result of that, as a result of increased sales and revenue, your profitability should be improving. Now, I have to mention that ISO does not specifically gets involved in the finances of your organization. However, following the ISO principles should improve your financial situation. Now, also, some customers require the suppliers to be ISO certified, because that kind of guarantees that your supply chain would be more reliable, and therefore, this is the reason why some of your customers could be requiring you to be ISO certified. As I mentioned before, decisions are based on data, internal data that is being generated, so it improves your decision-making process, and it forces you to be in this continual improvement culture. So you will improve your the quality and also the process of developing your product, which then makes it more efficient and effective. As I mentioned already before, your efficiency will improve, and by better integrating your processes, you will then be basically starting or evolving your lean process. And as I mentioned before, it's very important that ISO not be just really be imposed on your quality personnel, but all of the workers throughout the entire organization must be involved in the ISO process. So in a nutshell, this is basically what I wanted to mention as a very top-level introduction to ISO. So thank you very much.
Alex, thank you so much. Thank you for the insights.